When you're working in Lightroom, you need to select photos before you can do anything with them. Now, for example, you might want to synchronize the settings from one image to one or more other images using the sync command. Or you might want to select more than one photo to create a collection for use in one of the other modules. Now, if I want to select a photo, I'm just going to go and I'm going to click on its frame. If I want to add more photos to that selection, then I can hold the Control key down and I'll click on any other photos that I want to add to this collection. Now, they don't have to be next to one another. Now, if I've made a mistake and I want to deselect one of those that I've selected, then I can just hold the Control key down again and click on it, and that will take it out of the selection. I'll just put that back in the selection again. Now, if I want to deselect everything, I can press the keyboard shortcut Control and D, or I can click in a blank area of the preview window if that's available. So I can click there, and that will deselect everything. Now, what if I want to select photos that are next to each other? Well, I can select a whole range by clicking on the frame of the first photo, holding the Shift key down this time, and clicking on the last one in the range, and that will select everything in between. And as before, if I want to remove one of these photos from this selection, I hold the Control key down and just click on it. I'll deselect them all this time, but this time I'll use the keyboard command Control and D. Now, in working with multiple selections, Lightroom does work differently to many other applications. Now let's have a look at that. First, let's select, say, 4 photographs. So I'm going to click on that one, hold the Shift key down and click on the last one. Now, what's different in Lightroom is that if you look closely, you'll see that the border colours are not all the same. This first one is lighter than these 3 here. And this is because this one is called the most selected and these are the least selected. And this is so in Lightroom that we could take the settings from the most selected and synchronize them with all these other in the same selection. Now, this could potentially cause you a problem if you don't understand it. So let me show you the problem, and then I'll show you the way that I would suggest avoiding it. So let's say that I have a number of photos selected like this, and I decide I just want to convert one of them to black and white. We might expect that if you click on one of these images that it would deselect the others. So I'll just click on this one and say this is the one that I want to change to black and white. So let's try it. Let's go up into the Quick Develop module and we'll just have a little look at a saved preset. We'll use a black and white preset and I'll select the blue filter. And as you can see, it's changed them all to black and white, all the ones selected, not just the one that I wanted to. So what's the solution? Well, let's undo that black and white conversion by pressing Ctrl and Z. Now all the images are still all selected. But if you want just to select one, then what you've got to do is click on the frame. So if I now say, well, I fancy changing this to black and white, then if I click on the frame, it automatically deselects everything else. So if I now go back and apply that same preset, that black and white preset, it now just applies it to that image. Now I'll just undo that by pressing Ctrl and Z. Right, now this behaviour is peculiar to making selections. If you want to move an image to another folder or to another collection, you've got to click and drag the image and not the frame. So if I wanted to move the position of this image, if I click on the frame and drag it, it won't move. I've got to physically click on the image to drag it and move it down. And if I want to move it back, I need to click and drag the image to move it back. Bit weird, but now you know. Now, something else to be aware of in Lightroom is that you can get different behaviours depending on where you are. Now, the selection behaviours we've been looking at are in grid view, which is what we're in now. Now, you can also make selections in loop view using the Filmstrip, but here the behaviour is different. So let's go to loop view by pressing the E key. And now we'll select 4 images on the film strip this time. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down and click to make my selection. And now let's add that black and white preset again. But this time it only applies to the most selected image. And that's because I've made my selection in the film strip rather than grid view. So that's the basics of making selections and some of the things to be aware of when you're working with selections in Lightroom.